Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this PhD in Business and Economics little meet and greet with the faculty and some of our alumni. Thank you to our faculty and alumni for joining us tonight. We're so happy to have you, and we'll go ahead and get started. So in tonight's session, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the university. The faculty is going to talk about the program and some of the things that they have going on. And then the alumni are going to talk about how they came upon Lehigh, what interests them most about the program, and then where they ended up. So first, a little bit about the university. Lehigh University is a global university, so we represent over 98 countries. We have 16 alumni overseas, so our alumni network spans not just in the US, but in a lot of different countries. And one other important thing to know is that we were the 6th university in the world to be recognized as an NGO by the United Nations, so we have a great relationship with them. If anybody was ever interested in pursuing a career with them post-graduation.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're good. Some other great things about Lehigh University is that we're among the premier research universities in the nation. We were founded by a businessman called Asa Packer in 1865. We have 550 full-time faculty, and 95% of those faculty are with terminal degrees. We have undergraduate students and graduate together. We have a little over 7,000 students, and that spans over a total of 3 campuses. So we have our main campus, which is our Asa Packer campus. It's on the bottom. I like to say it's on the bottom of the mountain. And then as you move up the mountain, you get to Mountaintop Campus, where is mostly research labs. We do have a startup company or a startup location where companies can come who are entrepreneurs, have startups, and kind of work in those offices up there. And then if you go down over the hill, we have our Goodman campus, where is mostly athletic fields. And we have some graduate housing over there as well. In the university, we don't just have the College of Business where this program is located, but we have 4 other colleges, including engineering, education, health, and arts and sciences. And then I was just going to say, now I'm going to pass it on to Ahmed, who's going to talk a little bit about the Department of Economics.
Thanks a lot, Allison. Appreciate that. And yes, I'm Ahmed Rahman, and I'm the director of the PhD program. Just for those of you who are tuning in either live now or via video, because we're going to post this up on the site, we also have an additional sort of webinar that explains the details of the program a lot. So we're really, I think the main thing here is to introduce some of the faculty and even more importantly, some of our graduates, proud members who graduated from Lehigh and now off doing amazing things, to talk a little bit to them and get some sense of the program. What I can mention here is, with 20 faculty members, sizable, with 9 full professors, 4 associates and 5 assistants, we have a really nice, I think, mix of cohorts that are both very, solid seasoned veterans in terms of research, and also new hungry upstarters, and everyone is sort of in between. So I think this provides a bit of a menu of research areas to pursue, not just, not just in terms of faculty, but in terms of the research areas. The mission is, yes, we're a research university, and hopefully you will be joining that research tradition that we have. The education portion, of course, is also very important. And that should play a role in your being here in the PhD program, given opportunities to do teaching assistantships, research assistantships, and so on. And we also have a very robust seminar series where we attract people from all over the place. We have top universities. Our location allows us to actually, invite people from really, Harvard, Yale, Cornell, Dartmouth, et cetera, places where We can get a wide range of different research areas, and this is very, very important, not just for us as faculty, but maybe even more importantly for the PhD students who are learning how to do research and learning this world. And so that's a couple of things about the economics department that I think might be relevant. We can talk a little bit more about that as we proceed, and if there's questions. But for now, I'd like to simply transfer over to Chad, who's the chair of our department, and he can talk a little bit more in detail regarding the program and his research.
Sure, thanks a lot, Ahmed. So I'm Chad Meyerhofer. I'm the current chair of the economics department. And even though the economics department is located in the business school, we are the only economics department on the campus. So we service both the business school and the College of Arts and Science and the other interested students in other colleges. So we have a department that I would say encompasses most major fields. We have microeconomists, macroeconomists, econometricians. The largest concentration of researchers in the department are empirical microeconomists. But we do have like 2 theorists in microeconomic theorists, and then we have 3 macroeconomists working mostly in empirical areas. So our PhD program, I've been here at Lehigh for a little over 15 years, and I've been involved in the PhD program the entire time. And I really like our program. It's somewhat unique in that we're a small program that admits students in cohorts every other year. So I think, we have the students tend to work well together, and they get to know each other very well because the cohorts are small. The design of the program is similar to what you would have at a larger university. Particularly in the first year, there's really no meaningful difference in the sense that, the first year curriculum, you have your courses in economic theory and econometrics, mathematical economics. Where the program is perhaps a little different is that, outside of those core areas, in the second year of study, we focus on, econometrics. We have a full set of econometrics courses for the second year. We have a full set of health economics courses because health is our largest research area. But then our course offerings in the other disciplines are a little bit more limited. So we'll have like a labor course, occasionally we'll have like an IO course. But we're not able to offer as many electives as you might have in a larger program. So that's the trade-off. But the benefit is that our students work very closely with the faculty. In contrast to where many of us went to graduate school at larger universities, we weren't able to spend as much time with our faculty advisors by any stretch as we work with our students here. And so the research aspect of the program starts mostly in the second year, at the end of the second year. And students, they do a third year paper, and that's where they initially work, one-on-one with the faculty advisor. And so there's a variety of research going on. I'm part of the research group in health economics, and that is our largest research group in the department. We have 6 health economists and we publish like a large body of highly cited research. Some of our faculty write grants, and so we will occasionally have externally funded projects that students will work on during the summer or even during the academic year. So you're going to meet one of our alumni, Li Zhongpeng, who worked on such a project when he was a student. And within the health area, our research really covers all the areas of health and health economics. So, market competition and industrial organization in health. It covers healthcare demand, health policy, environmental health. And so we have a lot of different areas. My own personal research is more on the consumer side of health. So I do a lot of work with the medical care costs of obesity and chronic conditions, and the development of like causal econometric models to look at those issues. I also do work on health information technology, research. Some of my research is really focused on healthcare expenditure, healthcare demand within farm households that I publish in the agricultural economics literature. And then I do some work that crosses over into medicine and public policy. So have a a pretty wide variety of research. If you want to know about any of our research, you can look at our web pages, and they're mostly up to date. So sometimes our most recent publications are not on our web pages, but we make an effort to keep those up to date. So if you look at our web pages, you'll get a sense of what we do and what we work on. And you can see that everyone in the department is quite productive and publishing regularly, working on a lot of projects. The other nice thing about our health economics group is that we have two of us are members of the National Bureau of Economic Research, and that's the premier health economic or health research not just health, it's actually the premier economic research organization in the United States. So that connection allows us into a network of very accomplished health economic researchers in the health economics group, but also individuals working outside of health, and also conferences and things that we attend. So we make another effort here to have access to large data sets the students can use for their dissertation. So we just spent a bit of money updating like our database of inpatient claims data from the state of Pennsylvania. So now we have like data all the way up until recently that goes back into the mid 1990s. We also, have purchased ambulatory surgery data. So we have some large databases like that we maintain in the department. We're also experts in federal surveys that are conducted annually by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And we sometimes work with partners in other countries or at other schools on proprietary data that they have. So there's a lot of different options in that sense for empirical projects for students to work on. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to let one of our assistant professors talk to you, who's a behavioral economist. His name is Felipe.
Thank you, Chad. Hi, everyone. I'm Felipe. I'm an assistant professor here. I joined Lehigh in 2020. And I'm also the co-director of our behavioral sciences lab. I'll talk a bit more about the lab in a second. So I finished my grad school in 2020. My areas of research, as Chad was mentioning, are behavioral, experimental, in labor economics to a lesser extent, and particularly studying public sector labor markets in developing countries. But mostly these days, my research has been more focused on behavioral, is studying both using lab experiments and field experiments as well. So this is a list of some of the recent publications. Two of them are lab experiments, and I mentioned this because I'm going to talk about the behavioral science lab in a second, and one is related to, it's more of a theoretical paper. As Chad was also mentioning, there's a very strong health-related or health focus in a lot of our research here at the school. And that caught my interest with time spent here and going to the seminars and the opportunities. So I've been also involved in projects using behavioral economics within health domains. So there's a recent paper that's finished. We're just about to submit it for publication. Is studying behavioral biases among physicians and trying to understand, I'm not going to go into details, but trying to understand if this particular bias gets better as they get more experienced on their jobs. There's another with the same group, another much larger project that we're undertaking now, studying guideline adherence behavior also among physicians. And I wanted to highlight this because this is a partnership that we've been developing with a very large health group here in PA that, well, has resulted in one research paper already and is much larger project that we are starting. And I see no reason why this partnership will not continue into the future. I think it will, and it will generate opportunities for students that are interested to get involved as well. And another thing that I wanted to mention in relation to possibilities or opportunities for research is the Behavioral Sciences Lab. So in our new business innovation building, just across the street from our older building, we have a state-of-the-art laboratory for experimental research for both individual research, participants sitting on their computers making decisions, and also rooms for group level research and experiments. And I'm one of the co-directors of the lab. We're setting it up now. We're going to be at full speed starting fall of next year. And there's a lot of opportunity for students to use and get involved in research. So at this very moment, I'm working with an honor student, an undergrad student, designing an experiment that we will run in the early spring. And of course, I expect to be doing this often and more often with grad students. So, and you don't have to be a fully experimental economist or dedicated only to experiments. Nowadays, it's very common to combine empirical work with experimental work, trying to disentangle channels or looking at one aspect in particular. And that's something that I'll be super interested in advising and working with. But that's it. I'm open for questions, of course, at the end. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Ahmed, for organizing. Ahmed, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, Felipe, again for letting me know. And thanks everybody. I'll be relatively brief here because I'm really interested in getting to Lijong and Dante and getting their perspectives after leaving Lehigh. Here I can simply mention that I've been I was a graduate of California Davis, and I first joined the academic world in a fairly non-academic road, I guess in some ways, because I joined the U.S. Naval Academy, which is technically a liberal arts college, very teaching oriented, enjoyed my time there a lot, but was actually at the end of the day looking for something that had a more research focus. And Lehigh seemed to be a great home for me. I started as a macro sort of growth person and transitioned slowly but surely, and then joining Lehigh a little bit more forcefully as more of a labor economist. And the reason why I was really excited about joining Lehigh, in part, as I was transitioning to think about labor-oriented topics, was precisely because of the skill sets that the program focuses on. Again, as Chad mentioned, the research areas that one can explore is all over the place, but we have a little bit less of a selection that you might get at a bigger institution. But that being said, the tools that are being taught at the first year, the microeconomic theory and the econometrics, I found lend themselves to all kinds of research areas. As was mentioned, health is a very strong, important aspect there. But these tools, as it turns out, can be utilized in all kinds of economic areas. So I just mentioning a couple of these labor-oriented works. One, so I'm working on some stuff with immigration, and the degree to which immigration and technology sort of intersect with each other. How does that affect native employment? I've looked, because I'm from the Naval Academy, I've worked at military personnel and learning various aspects of military. Again, that's an important aspect of public sector employment in terms of retention, in terms of human capital development. And there's lots of random exogenous variation that happens in military circles that allows us to look at certain aspects of who your boss is, what kind of skills you get, what kind of peers are you interacting with, and how that influences your career trajectory. And then his final paper called Bad Company was a foray into that peer effects literature using the Naval Academy data for the students who don't necessarily have a lot of choice in terms of who they interact with, but nevertheless are going through this college process. So we can learn a lot about, who not only who your friends are, but who you've been thrust into having to associate with, and how that may or may not influence your longer run educational and then labor market outcomes going forward. These are the areas that, maybe they weren't the papers that I had started with, but it seems in my head, the areas that lend themselves to collaboration with the PhD student. And one of the things that I might mention here beyond these papers is, again, as Chad mentioned, we are really a group that focuses on the development of the students. So we work a lot closely, me going to PhD at Davis, as wonderful as that program was, it was still, you didn't necessarily have those connections with your advisors that you might like. And the model here is very much a collaborative spirit that does not end upon graduation. So as an example, with a recent cohort student working on immigration, I'm working with Ilya, who's now a postdoctorate scholar at West Virginia University on immigration and language assimilation. How important is linguistically assimilated migrants to influencing labor market outcomes in their local economy? Noir is another student that is now a postdoctoral scholar at Louisiana State. And we're working on a paper on female education and mandating female education in Bangladesh, how that influences their outcomes, sort of marriage markets, labor outcomes, and so on. And then finally, I might mention Kevin Smith, who actually was Chad's primary advisee. We're working on a paper. He's now an assistant professor at Beloit College, which is a top liberal arts college. And we're working on a study on heat shocks. So these health people have pulled me in a little bit with the health analysis and looking at health shocks as a negative health outcome. How does that impact labor outcomes, looking at historical census records? So again, areas where I'm very excited about, and again, the point is, just because you graduate here, we continue to support, we continue to advise. And I don't think, if you're in a postdoctoral situation, we're not satisfied until you get that assistant professorship. And if you have an assistant professorship, we're not really satisfied until you get tenure. And my colleagues here are remarkable at making sure that they keep up to date with their advisees and continue on that research progress. And so I'm just trying to emulate them. And so that's the reason why I'm very excited about being the director of this program, and really excited about meeting the incoming class when you guys come. So I think that's more than enough about me. And right now, I'd love to hear from Lijong and Dante. Lijong, maybe you can go first. Oops, there we are.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me today. So I'm Lijong Pan. I got my PhD from Lehigh in 2015. So currently I'm an associate professor of economics at the University of West Georgia. So prior to that, I was economist at a think tank in Washington, D.C., and that was my first job after Lehigh. So I wanted to share a little bit today about how Lehigh shaped my career and got to where I am now. So as Chad has mentioned, I think, any PhD programs, the training has two components, right? The first component is that in the first 2 years, you take courses. I think Lehigh does a really good job putting together a well-structured and relevant set of courses, especially with the emphasis on practical empirical skills. And these are valuable whether you're interested in a tenure track job or private sector jobs. And secondly, and I think, again, this has been mentioned time and time again, is how supportive and engaged our faculty advisors are. I mean, now I'm a professor myself. I can tell you how busy our life can get sometimes, especially now it's kind of the final exam period. But now, if I recall my time at Lehigh, I was just grateful that how generous the Lehigh faculty were with their time. So Chad was actually my main advisor. So, every time I wanted to meet about a research question, a problem I have, Chad was always there to support me along the way. And that can be said for all other faculty members in the program. And that really taught me how to become a researcher, which really sort of got me to where I am now. So that's the second thing I want to talk about. And thirdly is, again, how close we were as a community. Again, we were a small program, so 8-9 students every other year, so we know each other very well. So one thing I do want to mention is that in addition to working with our faculty members, our graduates, we actually collaborate a lot amongst ourselves. And I think I haven't compiled the data, but the research output from our graduates is really impressive. I think many of us have published in very, very good journals. So if we have that data, it would be great to show us how how productive our graduates are and what outlets we have been publishing in after we left Lehigh. I think that will really showcase how strong Lehigh is in terms of developing our skills as academic researchers. And finally, I'll talk about the resources that were available to me when I was at Lehigh. And then again, I think those things were important in terms of getting me started on my career. So for example, I think Chad just mentioned this, Lehigh invested a lot in acquiring large data sets. So being able to work with data sources really gave me an advantage in the job market. I think I got my first job at the think tank in DC precisely because I had this, this project where I got to use the inpatient claims data. And again, this really speaks to how much Lehigh invests into its PhD program and how much the faculty members cared about our success. And with that, I'm going to transition to Dante, and I'll be happy to take questions afterwards.
Thanks, Jung. So my name is Dante D'Antonio. I finished my PhD at Lehigh in 2016, so 1 year after Li Zhang was done. I think I'm probably the rogue example of someone here who maybe took a slightly unusual path, both during the PhD program and after. My focus was on labor economics, but my dissertation was really focused on the intersection of sports and labor economics, which Chad probably reminded me more than once was not a great job market strategy at the time. But ultimately, I can say it all worked out fine. I think it really goes back to the sort of understanding of developing those foundational skills that are hugely important. I didn't get my current job because I wrote a dissertation about sports economics. I got my job because I had a solid foundation of data analysis and how to build models and how to write well and communicate well. And that's really the skills that sort of help propel me in the job market. My current position where I've been since I graduated is at Moody's Analytics. So we're a part of the broader Moody's Corporation, which one half is the rating agency that people tend to be familiar with. The other half is Moody's Analytics, which is research focused. I sit within our economic research group there. I started as an economist in that group. I'm now a senior director. I will say when I initially was hired, my labor background did play a role. We had a big ongoing sort of applied labor consulting project that I sort of first worked on. And so certainly the labor background that I got at Lehigh and previous experience that I had working at the Bureau of Labor Statistics certainly helped sort of get that first foot in the door. But I really think those foundational skills that we've talked about, that's what's really helped me sort of develop and build. And that's ultimately what I think has helped me succeed throughout my career, is being able to sort of go back to those skills about how to do good research, how to ask important questions, sort of how to dive into and try to get answers to those questions. And Lehigh certainly helped develop those skills. And I think, again, sort of reiterating what others have said, I think the small cohort sizes, the sort of intimate interactions with faculty are invaluable when it comes to developing some of those soft skills as well. So it's not all about how do I build the best model? How do I get results? It's about, how do I actually present these results to people? How do I talk about them? And I think getting that sort of time with faculty to work on those skills and develop those skills is hugely important and can really set you apart in a job market where, everybody's got the quantitative skills to some degree. And so having those sort of soft skills in addition to that is really important.
All right, so thank you so much, everybody, for presenting. I'm going to take it over, and if we convinced you that this program is the right program for you, here's how to apply. All of our graduate students are fully funded for the first 4 years and typically funded the 5th year through teaching assistantships. We do have an open application right now for fall 2024, and the deadline is January 1st. To apply, we have an online application, and in that application, you would need to submit a personal statement, a resume, 2 letters of recommendation. We do need your transcripts, which can be unofficial for the application purposes. And then if you're admitted into the program, we will request that you send your official transcripts directly from your university. The GMAT and the GRE are optional. We do recommend that if you have a GPA lower than a 3.7, that you submit a GMAT or a GRE, but it is up to your discretion. And for international students, we do require an English language proficiency test, which either can be the TOEFL or the IELTS. And then one last thing I will mention, as Philippe mentioned earlier, we do have a brand new business innovation building. It is right across the street from our old business building, the Roush Business Center. It has 16 state-of-the-art teaching spaces, including the classroom in the round, which is this big round classroom with all these screens, so you can see your fellow students and the things that they're presenting. It does have the financial services lab, the data analytics lab, a media and communications lab, and as also Philippe mentioned, the behavioral science lab. So we're very excited that we're capable of having all these great facilities right here on our campus. We also have the business innovation incubator space, which is for anybody with an entrepreneurial idea, kind of like the startups that I mentioned earlier. They can be chosen by Lehigh University to work directly in offices on our campus and kind of launch those companies. So there's definitely lots of exciting things, especially the things that the faculty and alumni have mentioned tonight. So please keep an eye on our website. I know Chad posted some journals that our graduates have posted in the chat. So keep an eye on those as well. And we will turn it over for questions that any of you guys may have tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. I'll just mention really quickly that if you have questions and we're not able to address them here, but please feel free to email Allison or myself regarding any of these questions that you might have. And as Allison just mentioned, Chad, yeah, in case you can't see it, just and I think Lijon's point is really good, just in terms of the research productivity that our students have produced. We're extremely proud of that that productivity. But Review of Economics and Statistics, Health Economics, Labor Economics, Journal of Health Economics, Economics and Human Biology, these are top of the top journal outlets. And so I think that publication, you know, that's just something that's quite something that we can take some pride in. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rahman. This is Musa here. I've been in touch with you via email last week. And
yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. And thanks to all the faculty members and the alumni who helped us today with their experiences. I was just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the empirical macroeconomics field that you have, like what exactly is covered in that? Is it more of national economies or something like regional state economies, or is it just depends on the context?
Yeah, that's great. So right, macroeconomics, of course, that's is you know not the core, especially in the first year. I think the micro theory and the metric sequence is the primary focus. But that being said, and actually we mentioned this a little bit. There's another video. I think this is confusing. We have this video, but we have another webinar that is available on the website that describes this a little bit more, which is the opportunity of taking advanced macroeconomic classes. As Chad mentioned, they tend to be less theoretical and more empirically driven. Especially we have a few very, very good time series econometricians. And so that's the area where we're one to go into the macro field focus. The empirical aspects of time series, I think, is going to be the heart of it. But again, as you mentioned, the context does matter as well. But I think that's a little bit up to like the PhD student and sort of the expertise and relevant research that our macroeconomists focus on. But I think in our macroeconomics arena, the data, the empirical and the time series nature of the data is the thing that actually is really strong in our department. And And historically, we have produced PhD students in macro. We have one PhD student in macroeconomics right now, working on really interesting stuff on sort of rational inattention. So the fact that we have rationality, but then we actually truncate that rationality to deal with complicated reality. And that, interestingly enough, will create all kinds of new insights in terms of our macroeconomic modeling. And a few years ago, we graduated a student in empirical macroeconomics, and he joined a top 50 liberal arts college. This is when I first joined, and I joined that committee. That was dealing with labor market and macro. So that was not so much time series. And I guess the bottom line is, we facilitate the kind of research support that is necessary for each individual student, and we gear them towards things that we can help them with. But of course, the student, so it's a little bit of a back and forth, right? It's like you might be very interested in one particular research area, and there's going to be some overlap there in terms of what it is that we're working on and what it is that you would work on. So there is always a sort of give and take a little bit as you learn about the skill sets that are necessary to do those things, and we inculcate those skills into you. So that's sort of a long-winded answer. But in general, I think the macro I would have to say is definitely a little bit less on the theoretical side and more on the empirical side.
Yeah, Ahmed, just to add to that,
Please.
I would say, like, topic-wise, I think that most of the macro faculty, they're working in monetary economics and financial economics. Those are the two main areas. And some of them are doing it in the US, and some of them are doing, we have a faculty who works on that in Latin America. But generally monetary and financial would be the two main areas. Is that correct? Fair, Ahmed?
Yeah, I think that's a great characterization. Thank you for your question. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the answers.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Feel free to also write them in the chat or raise your hand or go ahead and unmute yourself.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, if there are additional questions and any thoughts at all, one other quick thing I might mention is, of course, I think Lijong and Dante's perspectives were really, actually they're interesting to me because I didn't know these students when they were here, and it's very gratifying to hear about their success stories. If anyone is interested in connecting with a PhD student right now, someone who's going through the process, that is something that we can facilitate as well. Again, just contact Allison or myself, and we can arrange sort of a one-on-one discussion with someone in the thick of it at the moment. In case anything that we say seems, well, I'd like to get some verification for somebody who's going through the process right now. We can definitely do that as well.
Absolutely. Go ahead,
Yeah, so I see that somebody asked a question, which I assume Allison is typing right now, about language testing requirements. And while she's doing that, I can talk a little bit about Pennsylvania state requirements related to language proficiency. So our students are funded through teaching assistant positions. We also have mostly teaching assistantships. We have one research assistantship position and one fellowship that we rotate within the program. We also have our students, we nominate them for university fellowships upon admission. But in order to TA in Pennsylvania, the student does have to receive a certain score. This is aside from the admissions requirements for language. Like when they arrive on campus, they do have to go through a language evaluation and receive a certain score in that evaluation in order to be certified to teach. So that's one of the things that we basically look at the TOEFL scores for, is to see what the probability is of them, meeting the proficiency in that evaluation. If a student were to come and not pass are basically the test that's required in Pennsylvania, then we would transition. We would have them work as a basically a grader who's not teaching recitations for a semester while they take supplemental language classes, and then they would retake that test so that they could be a full-fledged teaching assistant in the spring. But that is a aspect of that's an aspect of the language requirements that applies to all universities in Pennsylvania, and many other states have similar requirements.
Yeah, and I would only add really quickly that those requirements are there obviously for to empower, well, not the students, but those who are doing the teaching assistantship to make sure that you're in a situation that you're comfortable and empowering you to actually do. And I think that teaching experience can often be very, very important for your academic pursuits after graduation. So that language proficiency is something that I think we take seriously, but we also try to give you the resources to be successful in the classroom.
Yeah, and we do offer. So I remember when I was in graduate school, I went to a school where graduate students did not teach at all at that time, and that that can be somewhat limiting when you go on the job market. At Lehigh, we do have opportunities for graduate students to teach courses when they're further along in the program. So we typically have 1 or 2 PhD students teach during the semester some of our core courses. And then we also have PhD students teach for us in the summer. So that's one way that we can't offer those opportunities to everybody, but that's one way that our students, particularly students who are more interested in pursuing jobs at liberal arts colleges, can get some teaching experiences before they graduate. But even if they don't, they all teach recitation sections through their TA positions where they get student evaluations and are evaluated. And so that can be useful evidence for them of their teaching abilities when they go on the job market. We also have a teaching development program at Lehigh, which graduate students can take for free, and then they get certified in different levels in that program. And that's another thing that our students have done prior to going on the job market to provide evidence of that they're high quality instructors.
And then one final thing that we mentioned, I think it was mentioned in the webinar last week, which was the fact that we have a pretty high concentration of colleges in this Lehigh Valley. That allows PhD students, especially as they proceed, to run their own classes in a different university setting. So we have Moravian University, Moravian College, and Muhlenberg College, and schools of this nature that actually allows even a greater opportunity to sort of flex those teaching muscles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not uncommon for students like in their 5th year to be hired away from us to serve as instructors at these local colleges and universities.
Hi, I have a question. Am I audible?
Yeah,
You're
we
on.
can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So my question is, if someone has a research idea that he or she wants to work on, is it possible to discuss that with a faculty member in that area currently with Lehigh during the application process or before the application process?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I've been fielding this question. I think in the application, especially maybe in the personal statement portion of it, talking about the research that you would like to pursue. It's not a requirement, but it does give us a sense of maybe your interests, what your research, even if what you might not know specifically, but just a general sense of the research area that you would like to pursue. Could be helpful, but the thing to note is, of course, the first year PhD, you're going to be very busy with coursework. That is not to say that you cannot broach at any time with any faculty member research ideas. Something that I mentioned last week is that when I was doing the PhD program at Davis, no one would talk to me until I passed my exams at the end of the first year. I found that a little disheartening, especially in California, where everyone's supposed to be very friendly and nice. And so the thing about Lehigh, what I really like the program is, again, because of that close collaborative spirit, that you'll be busy that first year with coursework, but it's nice to be able to think at least a little bit about the research area. You're not going to really have a lot of time to do anything about it, however, until probably the second year. Right? You're going to be very, very, very busy. Our program is structured in this, as Chad mentioned, the first year is really very similar to all PhD programs in economics around the country. But it's after that point that the research starts to take hold in terms of your field classes and then going further into your third year paper. So, you don't need to have a real specific research agenda in order to apply. Having some understanding of what that research direction could be is certainly helpful, but it's absolutely it's not necessary to have like a fully fledged research program. In fact, if anything, most people will not have that, and that's fine.
No. Yeah, and as far as like, talking about it as you're applying, like I would say that, typically when we have those more in-depth conversations is after students apply and are admitted to the program. Then we'll host like a candidates day where students who are admitted can, in the past, especially before COVID, like we had the opportunities for them to come to campus and have individual meetings with faculty. We can obviously now, we'll probably do a hybrid thing where we have some people who are able to come will come, and then others that can't, we'll set up Zoom meetings. So we will make an effort to schedule individual meetings with faculty for admitted students, where if they want to talk in a little bit more detail about research, that would be the opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, then I want to thank everyone for participating. Thank you, Allison. Thank you to our guests from beyond who came back and took time out of their precious schedules to share their thoughts about the Lehigh program. And as I mentioned, please send us your questions if they arise, and we look forward to reviewing your applications. Thanks so much, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.